All right, my name is Jason, and I'm here with Adriana, and we're going to learn all about her journey through being a raw vegan and her journey through MS and how she overcame her MS limitations through all natural food. How are you today, Adriana?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for being here with me today, and thank you for taking the time to sit down and answer all my questions.
Yeah.
So, first of all, you're where are you right now?
I'm in Chiang Mai, Thailand.
Okay, and how do you like living in Chiang Mai so far?
Yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, like the fruit here is incredible. Obviously, that's like one of the main reasons I come to the tropics is the fruit. And of course, the weather is beautiful. So yeah, I love it. Chiang Mai feels very city-like to me, so I'm not as huge of a fan of it as I am with Bali, or as like Phuket, because I went there last year as well, which is also in Thailand, which has a lot more beaches and stuff like that. But I still love it. It's wonderful.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chiang Mai. Like I said, I spent 7 months in Chiang Mai, and it's a cool place, and the fruit is really good there.
Spectacular, right? The mangoes.
Oh, so good. So for those who don't know, because I think a lot of times there's so many diseases and illnesses out there that a lot of people have probably heard of MS or this disease or that disease, but they don't actually know what it is or how it's caused. So could you just let me know what MS is and how it's caused and what it kind of does to the body?
Yeah, well, a lot of people say that, like, it's a big mystery what causes MS. They say that about most diseases, but I actually think all chronic diseases are caused by chronic lifestyle habits that lead to chronic build ups in the body that create lesions or tumors or whatever it is. For multiple sclerosis in particular, it's a neurological disease where lesions can form on the brain or spinal cord. And so it can affect anybody in a multitude of different ways. Because multiple sclerosis literally means multiple scars, which that's what lesions are, right? So there's all sorts of beliefs about what actually causes it, and some people say it's genetics. And as I said, I don't believe that. I believe it's caused by lifestyle choices. Because if it weren't, then why is it that so many people have healed themselves changing their lifestyle choices? um, but what can happen with people with MS is they can lose their abilities, and it's different for everybody. Some people lose their eyesight, their ability to walk, their ability to hold their bowels, their ability to even feel any of their limbs. Some people die early, premature death, all that stuff. So basically, your nervous system starts to, they say, attack itself, and therefore, organs can shut down, and that's how people can have, early mortality and stuff like that. So it's a terrifying disease if you continue down the path you were on. But for me, as soon as I was diagnosed, I knew immediately. I said, I'm going to heal. And the doctor was like, haha, good luck. And I said, I'm not taking the meds. No, that's, I just had a feeling, and I looked it up. I researched it. These meds are, I won't go too much into that. I know there's a lot of controversy, but they're toxic. Anyways, that's my opinion, and I'm not a doctor. I'm not saying you should do that, whatever. But yeah, did you want me to talk about what I did to overcome it, or?
Yeah, no, I kind of want to just get like so
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
nervous system auto like a nervous system autoimmune disease scarring on the nervous system. So
yeah.
like you said, it could affect
Your
people in
limbs,
very
your
yeah, it
yeah.
could affect anybody in a variety of ways. Was there any specific area that you kind of like were like, oh, like it affected me in this part of my body more or this part?
Oh yeah, totally. For the first little while, I just had like, it would be like I would wake up with, the right side of my body completely numb, and I couldn't lift it. I felt like a bag of sandbags. It was so scary. And the doctors didn't know what it was and all that stuff. So it was affecting my spinal cord and my brain. When they finally diagnosed me, I wasn't having really any symptoms besides a little bit of tingles in my spine. And because I was vegan, I thought, oh yeah, yeah, I'll totally heal this. But I was unhealthy vegan. But I'll get into that later. Eventually, though, I ended up having almost complete numbness in my lower half, like below my belly button. So I could still walk, but it was becoming extremely difficult, and I couldn't run anymore because the tingles and numbness was so intense and so painful. Um, and I was losing some vision in my eye every once in a while. Like it would just completely black out. It was so scary. Oh my God. And oh yeah, I couldn't hold my bowels, which was very embarrassing, but also terrifying. And I think it was at that moment that I just knew like, okay, like I have to change something with my diet. This vegan diet that I'm doing isn't actually working. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. We're gonna unpack the
Yeah, yeah,
unhealthy vegan thing for sure. But that's like that's a very limiting and scary thing to be going through, especially at a young
I was
age.
I
Like,
was like 26 when that happened.
yeah, so that's not that's relative, that's very young to be going through
Hmm.
that. Is that for most people, is it common to get or be diagnosed with MS at earlier or later, or is it just sort of whenever the
Oh, it kind
illness
of
or
depends.
whenever the lifestyle finally catches up to you that it kind of accumulates?
That's a good question. Well, I was actually diagnosed at 23, and then it wasn't until I was like 26, 27 that I had horrible, scary symptoms. But most people actually get diagnosed in their 20s.
Okay.
But then, of course, it varies. I know people who've been diagnosed in their 40s or later. And I've noticed a pattern that most people will have their worst symptom hit at around the age I did, which is like 27, 28. So that was really interesting too.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That is very, yeah. No, I like, again, like I said, it's something I've had heard of about a lot, like MS, like I've heard of it, like, and MS, I was like, okay, well, cool. Add it to the list of all the other things we got to end. But it sounds like a very, very deliberate, like a very, very like consuming disease because it's your nervous system. And so I just wanted to get a clear picture of that, because if it sounds like a lot of people can be in a lot of pain from this disease. And so if there's a way that they can actually be like, oh, hey, look, no, I can actually do this and not just treat the symptoms and not just and actually treat the actual causes, then it's just like you're home free, right?
Oh,
Okay.
totally.
So you're 23 and you first get diagnosed with MS.
Yeah.
And at this point, were you a vegan?
Yes, I had just gone vegan that year when I got diagnosed.
Okay, so you went vegan before.
Yeah, it was like a few months before, I think, like 6 months before.
Okay, and what prompted that change?
To become vegan.
Yes.
Um, I just had this feeling about vegetarianism for a long time. And at the time, I had a boyfriend who, him and I were total meat eaters, eating tons of cheese and all this stuff. And, I was still having those weird symptoms and everything. And I just thought, like, I don't know, I feel like I shouldn't eat animals. I just had this feeling about it. And then, because he was totally against vegetarianism. So once I finally, like, I ended the relationship for, multiple reasons, but, bless him. But I finally felt like, okay, now I can become a vegetarian. Because at that time, I thought I needed like, somebody else's permission to do it. But, or, I really felt like, okay, now's the time. So I tried it for a week and I was like, I feel totally fine. And then I watched two documentaries in one night, Cowspiracy and Food Choices. Have you seen them?
I've seen Cowspiracy, great documentary. I have not seen Food Choices.
Very similar to like What the Health or
Okay.
something. Oh my God. It was overnight. I was like, I'm a vegan now. Like,
Okay.
it is like with like boom, I'm that kind of person. I'm like a hmm, cold pineapple, cold durian kind of person. I don't want to say cold turkey.
I like that. I like that. I like
So
that.
silly. Um,
Cold durian,
cold
defrosted
durian.
durian,
Yeah, exactly. Thawed durian.
raw
Oh my God.
durian,
Oh my God, cold durian is so good. It's like whenever I have fresh durian and then I put it in the fridge, it's kind of like, did you ever eat pizza from the fridge?
or
Oh my
like
God.
fajito.
Oh my God, yeah, it's like that. Oh my
Yep.
God, it's so good. But yeah, overnight vegan. But I did it very badly. I was eating all the vegan processed food because I was like, okay, I'm a vegan now. Like, I gotta try this shit out. But Oreos, fucking, vegan meat. Sorry, I curse sometimes. I hope that's
That's
okay.
okay. That's okay. You say what you want to say.
Okay, fuck. Sorry. Okay. But yeah, what did I answer your question?
No, no, you did. You did. 23 went vegan. And so was it more of, so for those who don't know, Cowspiracy is more about focusing on animal agriculture's
Yeah.
impact on the environment. And then
Yes.
so I haven't seen food choices
Yeah,
and that, but you said it was similar to Forks Over Knives, which is more of a health aspect on the vegan side. So would you
absolutely.
say it lined up more for you, the vegan choice, more on the environment side, or was it more the health side, or was it like pretty even on both?
It was both. And then eventually it became also the animal side because I eventually watched Earthlings, which was terrible. It was so hard to watch that. But yeah, that's like one of the biggest things for me.
Cool. I have
Yeah.
again have not seen Earthlings, but again, it's
Oof.
also one of those things where I'm like, I feel like I kind of
If
like
you're
I've seen a lot of
vegan,
videos, and I'm like, I don't really know if I want to like ingest
it's so
that.
upsetting. It's so upsetting. You should
Yeah.
just get meat eaters to watch it, honestly, because they need to see that, you know.
Yeah, they probably do. I think a lot of times though with people with that, they're almost so not to get into the whole meat eater perspective is, but like you can be very. I think a lot of times people can be very disconnected emotionally, mentally, in a lot of planes. So
Right. Yeah.
yeah. Anyways, it's we'll get there. We'll get there.
Okay.
So what was your so you're eating vegan, and what would sort of like a day in the life of like the unhealthy vegan as you kind of said it
Um,
look
Well, I
like?
guess it wasn't so unhealthy, but I think I would start my day with oatmeal, which is like pretty good. This was later on down the line, and I would put a lot of peanut butter in there, and lots of fat, lots of like almond milks and soy milks and things like that. Lunch was I don't even really remember, but I think it would be like a sandwich or something. Dinner would be like a lot of potatoes and beans, and I would put a lot of oil on things and lots of fat, and I just had no concept of like you need to lower the fat. But I also was drinking so much coffee at that time. Like I would drink maybe 3 or 4 cups a day, and then I also was eating these like vegan desserts, which were super high fat. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really funny how a lot of times people can think like, oh, hey, look, I'm a vegan or I'm a vegetarian, and all of a sudden they think it means that they're healthy and that they're going to live forever. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, no, are you actually meant designed to eat a like a burrito that's been frozen in plastic from the microwave? Like, are you really
Yeah.
designed to eat that? And I've heard stories, and again, not to like really scare people from veganism to keep eating their unhealthy meat products or animal products or whatever. Like I've met vegans and they die from heart attacks.
Oh, for sure.
Like
Yes.
you can still be extremely unhealthy, and I think that's part of the problem with like where we're at with the whole like vegan thing is that like there are people who are very unhealthy and that you know, but then there's also people who maybe don't eat as much meat or don't eat as much dairy and they can still be relatively healthy, and then there's other ethical things that we can get into with the whole meat thing. But yeah, just because you're vegan does not mean you're healthy, because case in point, you're 23 turning 26 going 26 eating vegan, and then your MS gets worse. And
Yeah.
so what was that sort of like? Did you have like sort of like a dark night of the soul kind of moment where you're like, oh shit, like I'm like this is like really scary kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. It was probably one of the most terrifying experiences I've had because I thought I was going to end up in a wheelchair. I just couldn't stop thinking about that. And I knew I had to shift my mindset. I knew I had to change something. And at first I thought, okay, this has got to be a mind thing because I'm very spiritual also. And I really believe in, law of attraction and all that stuff and, the power of the mind. But I just kept on thinking about there's something that I need to change about my diet. And so I was really drawn to these people who had healed their MS with food. So I did go to like an all vegetable kind of keto vegan at first, and I lost a ton of weight. Everything got worse. So I realized this is not working. And then I kind of shifted towards medical medium. Are you aware of him?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, very
Anthony,
popular in the health world. Yeah, Anthony. Yeah, he's
Anthony
great.
Williams, yeah.
I love Anthony William. Yeah, he had a lot of really important information for me, eat more fruits and vegetables. So I started doing that, not completely, was still drinking coffee, still having processed junk. So I was slowly getting better. Um, yeah. And then eventually, I think it was like 2 or 3 years into that, I realized, okay, I just need to eat all fruits and vegetables. So I was eating cooked vegetables still, like potatoes and things, but I was getting so much better. I was like, whoa, this is really good. And then eventually I quit coffee, and it was again overnight thing. I got really sick after that because my body just detoxed hard. Holy crap. I felt like I got hit by a truck. It was amazing. Such a good detox. And then I had this massive like bronchial attack, which was actually a massive detox, right? So it was awesome. Tons of mucus came out, for your just anybody eating it right now, you're welcome. Um, but yeah, and then eventually I came across some YouTube videos. Do you know Eli Martyr?
No.
Oh my God, such an excellent fruitarian Canadian, such as I. I met him before. He's wonderful. If you don't know Eli Martyr, look him up on YouTube. He's called the Free Melon Society.
That's
He,
funny.
oh, yeah,
That's
it's
funny.
he's got such a good humor. Oh my God, and he's like a really fit fruitarian. And he made this video years back called "The Curious Case of the Fruit Eating Man," and I just came across it on my feed one day. I had never heard of him, and I just watched it out of curiosity, and I listened to the entire thing, which is very rare for me. And oh my goodness, I was transformed. He just made so much sense describing this fruit only diet, and I was like, whoa, that's so cool. And then I just kept on doing research about it, and I remembered Doug Graham's book, The 80-10-10 Diet, which somebody introduced me years back, but I just didn't really care. And then I re-listened to it, and then I read it twice, and I was like, this is the Bible. I am now a raw vegan. um, and then I became a raw vegan in like October 2022, I think. Was it? I don't know. And now I'm just hooked ever since. And
That's
everything got better also.
yeah, no, we're gonna get into some more details because that was like a lot of stuff all packed into a short time. Um,
Yes.
because before we go into like the whole raw thing, because a lot of people are probably like, what is 80-10? I mean, if you're watching this video, you might have some idea of what 80-10-10 is or what we're sort of
Yeah.
talking about here, but we're gonna explain all of it. But the one thing I really want to identify, Adriana, is you had this dark moment where you're like, holy crap, like I might like I'm 26, 27, I might end up in a wheelchair in a couple years. And like that's got to be for people who are going through MS, if like that's what your life is like, that's got to be so terrifying. Like I think that's really terrifying. If that was me, I'd be really scared. And
Yeah.
so what I'm curious about is if we can identify is that you were in this situation, but then you made a choice to either you had a choice either to accept your reality or to explore the power you have to change your reality. And
Mhm.
so I'm curious what you think it was about yourself that made you choose the ability to explore other options because I think that's a big problem for a lot of people is that they accept that like oh no like I have MS like this is what my life is it's going to be about maintaining pain, right? Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like what was it about you or the situation that you felt that you made an empowering choice?
I have a very healthy level of denialism.
Okay.
What I mean by that is when somebody says, you cannot heal this, I just completely disagree. I believe in possibility. And I had really good influences in my life that were saying, you can change your reality if you change what you're doing, if you change your mindset. And I knew that was true at my very core. And so I had just totally denied the idea that I would actually end up in it. Like, no, this is not my life. My life is I'm healthy. At 80 years old, I'm still doing freaking squat jumps and running around and stuff. Like at 100, I'm still whatever. Um, so I just knew. So that's what it was about me that set me apart from people who accept that, which I totally understand why people do because it's easy to do that because everyone else around you is accepting it. So it's actually more difficult, especially if you don't have support. I had really good support. To just say I'm not going down the traditional path. I'm choosing to create my life the way I want it to go. And that inevitably led me towards solutions. It's just that mindset alone brings you towards solutions, whatever it might be for you. Yeah.
No, that's really good. Having good influencers and good people in your
Yeah.
life that can help steer you in better directions And it's amazing how simple it sounds simple just talking about it, but it kind of really is simple where you're like, okay, look, am I going to accept this or am I not going to accept this? And it
Yeah.
makes me think of like I'm not going to get the quote exactly right, but like Muhammad Ali, like he has this, I think it was Muhammad Ali, he has this quote where he says like um basically where he says like, small men like accept the world that they've been given instead of exploring the power they have to change it. And then he goes into the impossible is nothing, impossible is a dare, it's a declaration. Anyways, it's a really good quote. If you search Muhammad Ali, impossible is nothing is what Adidas used for their slogan, I think, for a while. But
Sounds really
anyways,
inspiring.
it's really true because a lot of times like we accept the world that we've been given because we're told that this is a certain way, when in reality it's like you could again look up if you have this disease or this problem or you want this out of life, you can probably find someone now with the age of the internet, you can find someone on YouTube who has cured MS. And so
Yeah.
we don't always have to accept the reality that we've been given. We can explore and expand. So one of the things that is very prevalent in the hero's journey is sort of this, sort of not divine intervention, but like a divine discovery. So you kind of mentioned that you were searching online about the Free Melon Society. What was his name again?
Eli Martyr. What's
Okay,
up, Eli? If you're watching
Eli.
this.
Eli.
Eli. Yeah,
Eli.
E L.
Okay, cool. So was he the first sort of like person that you kind of saw that explained this raw food living?
Yes. Yes. And then because I learned about fruitarianism from him, I did some more research and I found a woman who's also a fruitarian. I don't know if she still is, but she was on YouTube just kind of sharing her journey. She healed multiple sclerosis completely going on a fruitarian diet. So I was like, I have to try this.
Exploded watermelon.
Exactly. It was
Okay.
that.
Okay. So for those who don't know, what is a fruitarian diet or a raw vegan? Are they the same? How would you describe both of those?
They're slightly different, very similar, both raw, completely raw vegan. Raw vegan incorporates some vegetables, so like, leafy greens and stuff like that, and also some nuts and seeds, whereas fruitarian is more like all fruit. So as a fruitarian, you might still want to get minerals and stuff from things like cucumbers and tomatoes, which are actually fruits, if you didn't know. And some fruitarians say that nuts are fruits as well. But just specifically, this woman that I mentioned, Rebecca Rosenberg, she's on YouTube if you want to look her up, also called the Texas Fruitarian. She did all low fat, which I knew that was important for people healing from neurological or any chronic condition. Low fat for at least a while is really important, but also raw vegan could is kind of an umbrella term for raw foods that are also vegan. So 80-10-10 is different from like other forms of raw vegan, of course.
Okay, we're gonna try to get this simplified and like so
Yeah.
everyone can make sense. Because if you don't have never explored this world, it probably sounds super super confusing because like as she mentioned, like raw vegan, like that could for something to technically be raw, like how would you describe something that has to be raw? Like what would that look like?
Uncooked, unprocessed. Like even like if you blend something, I mean that's still raw. I mean, it's mostly like uncooked. So as long as it's, prepared under the temperature of like what is it, like 40 degrees Celsius or something.
40,
Um,
46 or something like that.
yeah, then
I think
then
it's
it's still raw.
100,
But you go ahead.
115, I think Fahrenheit or 130, somewhere like right in that
Yeah, somewhere
40,
there.
46, yeah.
Look at us Canadians using Celsius. Whoop, whoop,
Celsius and Fahrenheit just for everybody. Um
whoop.
yeah, because that's the thing is like, a raw vegan can be a very broad term because it can be like, okay, well, olive oil can be cold pressed, and so that could technically be raw. Like you can get
Yeah,
dehydrated treats that can technically still be under that 46 degree
yes.
mark. And so that's where we kind of like shift to this like fruitarian side. And so a fruitarian, again, you said is all fruit.
Yes. Yes, I mean there are multiple variations, I guess you could say, like within the raw or fruitarian world. But what I like to follow to completely simplify everything is to follow what's called a species-specific diet. So if you look at the anthropoid primates in nature, who we are most similar to genetically and behaviorally and anatomically and physiologically, they eat primarily fruits and tender leafy greens, obviously raw, and they don't process it. They don't have blenders, they don't have juicers, they don't have dehydrators, so they eat everything just as it is. And so that's how I like to have my diet for the most part. I like to eat fruits as mono meals, number one. If I do eat greens, I like to kind of stay away from mixing things, even though it's delicious and yummy. Every once in a while I do that, but I really like to stick to like the species specific diet, which is as minimally processed as possible, or not processed at all.
Okay. I
Yeah.
kind of glad you brought up the whole natural instinct species thing because I
Yeah.
think we're as humans, we're very confused and disconnected on what our natural diet is. Because if you ask someone like what is a human's natural diet, I don't know what a lot of people would say. So how would you say how could how can you tell what a human's natural diet is?
This is my favorite topic.
Okay, good. Let's hear it.
Okay, so there's a really, really easy litmus test. All you have to do is look at any food that you like to eat. Like, let's say it's meat, and you have a piece of steak in front of you. Okay, but let's put it in its raw form. So the raw form of steak is a full cow, a live cow. Okay, it's not dead yet either because it's raw. It's alive. So that food is in nature. It's there for you. There's a gazelle, there's a deer, there's these animals. As a human being, are you able to chase it down without tools, by the way? No tools, no guns, nothing, just your human machinery. Can you catch it with your bare hands? Number one. Do you have the instinct, number one, the desire to strangle it to death with your teeth by biting into its jugular the way a real carnivore would? Let's say for argument's sake you are totally excited to do that and somehow you're able to strangle this cow to death. Okay, now this cow's laying on the ground. Once again, you just got your physical machinery. You have to eat it raw. That steak is laying right in front of you. So can you eat it like that? Blood, guts, everything the way that carnivores do. And carnivores don't just look for the clean cuts. They don't look for the what is it, the sirloin or whatever the heck it is. They eat everything that's edible. They eat the eyeballs, they eat the gonads, they eat the innards, like the intestinal tract, which has poop in it. They eat that shit, literally, because to them, that is succulent. That is delicious. Okay, so you probably wouldn't eat that. I also say, okay, would you eat roadkill on the side of the road? It's fresh, it's raw meat. And people say, of course I wouldn't eat roadkill. And I'm like, yeah, you're not a carnivore, my friend. Um, because carnivores absolutely would be like, wow, free food. I'm eating that. That is awesome. They're excited about it. That's delicious. Like to them, when they look at it, it's exciting to their palate. They get turned on. So for humans, if you look at fresh roadkill and you're like, oh, like get me a, your body is so intelligent, it's telling you that's not your food just by you gagging. Like we look at raw meat in the store and like we like, oh my God, oh, like it's disgusting because we're not designed to eat that. Our bodies are telling us. This is not even an ethical thing, this is just a logic thing. So that's the meat part of it. Okay. Now the other thing is people say, well, like what about, legumes and like potatoes and stuff like that. It's like, okay, well, what about a raw potato? Dig it up from the ground, eat it. Like, are you like, oh my God, this potato with no salt on it is so yummy. It's like hard and crunchy and full of dirt and worms and shit. And it's like, Yum? No. Okay, so it's not my food. Also, it doesn't digest very well. The next thing people are like, well, I like bread and it's so good. It's like, okay, well, what's bread in its raw form? It's a field of wheat. Are you going to eat a field of wheat? And like, I know bread is delicious. I used to eat a lot of it. It was really good.
Yeah.
I totally get it. There are so many foods that are so delicious, but that does not mean we're designed for it. So any food that you like, think about it in its absolute rawest state. I don't even know if that's a word. And would you eat it? And if not, it's probably you're probably not designed for it. The only food that people actively eat raw every single day are fruits. And yeah, some leafy greens, like maybe lettuce, maybe celery, but very minimally, even that. Like sometimes maybe some cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, maybe, but not like you're not like, oh my
You're
God,
not,
like
you're
people.
no one's salivating over raw broccoli.
No, they're
No.
just like maybe every once in a while they're like, I just want a little bite. Sometimes people, we want the minerals, right? But the saltiness, but the fruit is number one. We're like salivating, just looking at it dripping from the tree. But a tiger walks by and it doesn't even see it because it doesn't even have the color eyesight like we do. We're able to see the color so we can, yeah, it's amazing this topic. It's so exciting to me because it's so simple.
It is so simple, and that's the thing that I love about it too. Is I'm very very similar. Where it's like if we examine nature,
Mhm.
does any animal in nature cook its food? The answer is no.
Yeah.
Does any animal attain its food using anything beyond its naked body? Okay, fine. Maybe some monkey will grab a stick and like beat a jackfruit or whatever, but like that's not the norm. So the answer is
Mhm.
again no. Like cows bend over and they eat grass. A monkey's going to grab an orange. He's going to eat it. A tiger is going to hunt whatever it is and it's going to eat it, always in its natural state. And these animals aren't walking around with cancer, diabetes, MS, heart diseases. Why are humans the only animal in this realm that are suffering from all these chronic or lifestyle diseases? And the
Yeah.
answer really is like we're not living how we're supposed to be living. Like we're not eating our natural food source. And the other thing I also find really, I remember this is a thought I had when I was first learning all about this too. Is like I was like, you just see like a cat, like we have a house cat, and the house cat goes outside and it literally instinctively stalks other animals, and I'm like, my cat's an indoor cat. Now she's outside. How does she know to hunt when she's never been shown how to do this and has never been outside? And then I thought about it. I'm like, man, I'm so useless. There's no way I could hunt a deer. Like, I don't know what I could forage. And I'm like, I don't know anything about this sort of stuff. And then when I learned about fruit being like my natural food source, I'm like, oh, I know how to pick a berry.
Yeah.
I know how to pick a banana off a tree. Like, that's instinctual. Like, food should be instinctual. It's an instinct. Yeah. And so it's like, it makes so much more sense when you're like, okay, well, I also love it. I think it's Doug Graham who says like, like it's pretty dangerous to try to go if you're like out in nature trying to go tackle a wild boar, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure I can sneak up on a raspberry bush and be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's another thing too, is like again, going down the whole I'd be curious about how you would answer someone who says, how do we but we evolved to eat meat, or because that's a huge thing for a lot of people, and is their belief that we evolved to eat meat, we evolved to eat cooked food. So how would you respond to that?
Oh my goodness. It's so funny. I think it's if see people say to me like, oh, we evolved to eat cooked food and all this stuff, I think, okay, well, first of all, if we evolved to eat cooked food, then why is it that the smartest animals on the planet besides us are actually the fruit eaters? The plant eaters, they are the ones who live the longest too. Why is it that in nearly all of the blue zones, well, actually all of the blue zones, they eat a diet that is mostly plant-based, very low fat? If we were evolved to only eat meat, then why is it that like tribes like the Maasai have a life expectancy of about 40 or 50 who, yeah, did I say they only eat meat? They're carnivores, right? And I just think that it's such a disconnect. Like we're evolved to eat cooked food. I think people say this because they want a reason to keep doing it.
Mm.
I think Doug Graham also said something really brilliant. I might be misquoting him a little bit, but I'll make my own spin on it. That nature has given us enough proof that the raw diet for all species is working really well.
Yeah.
And like, yes, we're really intelligent. So, of course, we had to find ways to survive in different climates. We're very adaptable as a
Hmm.
species. So, I think the fact that we're able to learn and adapt shows that we have been smart for a long time. And that it wasn't because of cooking and creating fire that made us smart, is that actually glucose provides our brain with the necessary fuel to function and grow and develop. So, but a lot of people disagree with me on this and say, oh, you need to go back to elementary school and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay.
I know the other thing too that also bugs me about the whole like we evolved to eat this way. Well, I'm like, okay, well, here's one thing. Why are we fatter, sicker, and stupider? Why are we getting progressively worse?
Yeah, we're like
And
degenerate.
second of all, evolution is a theory, and not everybody prescribes to that notion. And so, anyways, without getting whole into the evolution versus other stuff topic, because that's a whole other like huge topic on its own that could be discussed for hours. Um, but yeah, it's just again, it's like try. I think that's why it's like regardless of what you believe, whether you believe in creationism or evolution or something in between, is like what can we observe in nature? What can we observe in our own instincts? And it's like you meet very few people who are like, "No, man, I don't like fruit." Have you ever met anyone who says like you get me some people who are like, "I don't like bananas." I'm like, "What about papayas?" I can take papayas.
Yeah.
Like, everybody loves fruit,
Yeah.
so I think fruit is absolutely fantastic. So
Yeah.
we've kind of discussed like the broad umbrella of raw veganism, and that's sort of like anything that could be that's a very wide spectrum. And then we kind of got fruitarianism where it's all fruit, but then there's this kind of other little thing that's kind of a combination almost of both, I would say, a little bit to a certain degree, and that's the 80-10-10 diet,
Mhm.
which is a book, 80-10-10 by Douglas Graham. And anyone who's interested in learning more about raw food, I would highly recommend that book. We've mentioned Doug a couple times and that book a couple times. So if you could explain sort of in a coconut shell what the 80-10-10 diet is, what it is.
Yeah. So essentially, 80-10-10 is like a general caloric ratio. So 80% of calories from carbohydrates like fruit, and then 10% from protein, 10% from fat. And this is just a general ratio. And if you're eating a diet of primarily fruit and some tender leafy greens, you're going to hit all those marks easily. So the idea is that humans are designed to thrive on primarily carbohydrate sources, like especially from fruit, or really only from fruit and low fat vegetables. And of course, you can get your protein from the fruit, you can get your fats from the fruit, you can get protein and fat from vegetables and especially leafy greens. So people tend to think that this is really, really low. That, that's too low for protein, that's too low for fat. But actually, most people generally eat around that much protein in a day, even if they're on a standard diet, maybe 16%. You don't really go much higher unless you're just downing protein powders, which is not good for you and is terrible for your kidneys. Um, and then the thing with fat as well, people think we need more fat. Or they just accidentally take in way too much fat without realizing it, like the way I did, which is pouring olive oil over things. But Okay, I'll come back to the 80-10-10. What actually could a day like that look like as an 80-10-10 or myself? Um, that could look like fruit for breakfast, fruit for lunch, fruit before dinner, and then a big vegetable salad or something. Low fat. So avocados are a fruit, but they're very high in fat. So these are things that, as an 80-10-10 diet, um, I guess practitioner, person who practices the diet, yeah, I would maybe eat a half of an avocado in one day. But right now, I don't even do that because I want my body to be able to cleanse as easily as possible. So I'm keeping the fats really, really low. But even if you don't eat avocados or nuts and seeds, you still do get protein and fat from the low fat fruits and vegetables. So that's it. That's 80-10-10 in a
I,
coconut
I
shell.
feel like we could probably talk for probably about a whole hour on just 80-10-10 because there's a lot of other nuances on it. But I think you
Yes.
described it very, very well, where it's a diet of, fresh fruit, fresh, ripe, raw, whole, organic fruits and vegetables with a tiny bit of nuts and seeds or a tiny bit of
Tiny
fat. Like,
can.
and not when we're talking when we're saying tiny, like what is tiny? It's going to depend on how much, like I work a labor job and I exercise a lot, so I eat a lot of food. But someone who doesn't is not going to eat as much. But like even just like some nuts or seeds that would fit into your palm is probably going to be more than enough for most people. And
Mm.
so, okay, so protein. We got to answer this question because there's going to be a lot of people out there who are going to be like, yeah, well, no, like where do you get your protein from if you're just eating fruit or if you're just eating fruit and a salad and some tiny nuts and seeds? Like, where are you getting your protein from?
This is my favorite, one of my favorite questions because it's so common and it's everyone's favorite question. Everybody
It is
wants to ask.
it is everyone's favorite question. Although I do have one question that I get asked a little bit more than this one, but I'll share with you at some point. But tell me, where do you get your protein from if you're just eating fruit?
I get it from my fruits and vegetables. That's where I get my protein. Okay. Now, besides the sarcastic answer, it's actually true though. I get my protein from fruits and vegetables. All fruits have a amount of protein in them that are sufficient for humans. We don't need so much as people think. That's like a follow-up question is, well, how much protein do you think we need? And people either don't know or they have various answers. And I always say, well, we actually only need 10% protein. And sometimes, like, even if you take in less, that's okay. Um, Protein is in all food sources. And people don't realize that fruit is one of those sources of protein. If you only ate sugar, like just from a bag, or you only ate drank oil, for example, then you would get zero protein. That's for sure. But if you're eating a diet of fresh fruits and fresh vegetables, you are getting plentiful protein. You don't need tons of protein for muscle growth and repair. And that is so evidenced by multiple people that I've seen online and in person who either, oh, sorry, there's construction outside. Can you still hear me okay?
You're good.
Okay. But I've okay, one sec. I'm just gonna get my headphone. Can you just give me 1 second? All right. Can you hear me a little bit better?
I can hear
Is
you
that
really
okay?
well.
Okay, good. Yeah, this microphone's really good. Um, okay, so I was talking about those guys that I've seen on the internet who do either a raw vegan diet or they do a complete fruitarian diet where they're just eating sweet fruits. And they are so muscular, like they look amazing. So, yeah, I don't know. It's pretty amazing.
Again, I think it comes down to kind of how we kind of talked about earlier, how like you can always find examples of people to support whatever it is you want to confirm in yourself.
Yes.
Another line I really like is Tony Robbins. He talks about how like the strongest need for the human personality is to be consistent with your identity. So if you like,
Mm,
you're like, oh no, like if eating meat is part of your identity, you will find whatever it is you need to confirm to continue to do
that's
that.
right.
But if you're like, no, like I am a frugivore, you will find whatever it is that you need to do to confirm that reality, right? So
Exactly.
it's always kind of, I think it's always good to be aware of our beliefs and whether they limit us or they help us or what direction they move us in. So yeah, because it's true. There definitely are fruitarians and raw vegans out there who like to lift weights and they're big and they're strong. Like it's a
Yeah.
very big myth about the protein thing. The other thing I was also curious too is like, what would you say the difference between raw protein is? Say like raw protein from
Mm.
fruit and leafy greens and nuts and seeds. How does that process and digest versus, or how available is that compared to cooked protein?
That's a great question. Well, number one, the protein from fruits I think is optimal because protein from fruits actually is in already its amino acid form. So it's already broken down for you because your body has to take protein inevitably and break it down into amino acids. It just has to do that with whatever food you eat. But with fruits, as I said, it's already in its amino acid form. So it's just so easy to just absorb and utilize right away. So that means that your body doesn't have to work as hard. That also means that your body's recovery time is going to be easier. So that's why raw fruits and vegetables are so fantastic, is that even vegetables are so much easier for the body to digest and absorb and break down those proteins into amino acids. So when we take in things that are cooked, they're so much denser. There's, first of all, the problem of the toxic load from the cooked food aspect of it. There's all of these toxic compounds that are created when you cook food. So your body has to, number one, send in the troops, send in the white blood cells. You know, it inevitably raises, I think that's called leukocytosis. It just immediately happens when you eat cooked food. As you probably know, like Doug's talked about this so many times. And so your body has to go into emergency mode right away when you eat cooked food. And so that, number one, slows down the absorption and your body's ability to actually break down the proteins and utilize them. Not only that, you've now mutated the food. And so the proteins are inevitably going to be mutated. So mutated proteins are not exactly great. You don't exactly want that. And a lot of them won't even be usable. So that's the other part of it too. There's so many aspects of it, but the ideal is to get your protein from raw fruits because they're already in their amino acid form. They're so easy to assimilate, so easy to utilize.
I like that. That's really cool because like that's how I sort of answer that question is like how available is something. So when you heat protein, it gets cooked and it becomes denatured, and so it's a
Yeah.
chemical change. So a good way of thinking of that is like when you take an egg yolk or an egg and you put it on a frying pan, what happens to the egg white is it becomes goes from translucent to opaque, and so it's
Yeah.
changed. And so like you mentioned, the white blood cells is anytime we eat cooked food, is our body recognizes it as foreign, and so we have a huge spike in our white blood cells. But that doesn't happen when you're eating only fruit. And so I think the way I like to look at the whole protein thing is like, okay, I might not be eating as many grams as like a bodybuilder or even just like an average Joe, grams of protein, but how much is available protein? Like how much am I actually able to digest, absorb, and utilize, and then eliminate? Because it's a way different topic, right?
Hmm.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so you found this YouTuber, Eli, the Free Melon Society, and how soon were you able to go start shifting towards being raw or being a fruitarian?
Well, when I watched it, I didn't shift to fruitarian right away. I was super interested in it though, so I kept on doing research. Um, and I was drawn to Rebecca Rosenberg and was like, whoa, this is amazing. Maybe I should try this. And then I remembered Dr. Doug's book that I had in my Audible account
but I only listened to half of it, I think years ago or something, because I just didn't really resonate with it at the time. But then I listened to it again and just, oh my goodness, it just made so much sense because he talked about the species specific diet. And when he talked about that and, listed out all the reasons why and everything, I was sold. I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a raw vegan now. And I think it was like after I listened to it and then read it again, I was just like, no, I listened to it and I thought, okay, I'm gonna go raw. Ordered the book, and I think I had like a couple of squashes left in my kitchen. So I was like, okay, I'll eat those. I'll have one more night of cooked food and then I'm done. I'm gonna go raw. I'm gonna try it. And then immediately after going raw, maybe not immediately, about a week into it, I just noticed, wow, I feel so much better. The tingles and numbness has gone down so significantly. I'm able to run again. I feel amazing. I have so much energy. My digestion is so much better. So it was just a total transformation. More clarity of mind and everything. Yeah. And then I've just been raw ever since then. I haven't stopped. I've just loved it. I love it so much.
So you were actually able to notice a difference in your MS
Within a
symptoms
week.
within a week.
Yeah.
Within a week, just from
Yeah.
eating fruits and vegetables or
Yeah.
fruits.
Well, just all fruits, but I was doing vegetable fruits as well. So I was doing like zucchini noodles and cucumber
Okay.
noodles and stuff like that. But yeah, essentially.
Because that's pretty, because like how long can people suffer with MS for?
Oh my God, forever. Like it just gets worse for most people, and for me it just kept getting better. So that was amazing.
Yeah. That is actually amazing, Adriana, because again, like I'm very like you, I'm very passionate about this way of eating as well. And it's just like, and I don't like people suffering if they don't have to. And so
Yes.
it's like it's incredible that you can be like, oh, I can actually notice a difference in 1 week in a disease that for some people can really just like if you're in a wheelchair and you can't walk, like that's horrible, especially if you're
Yeah.
young, right? So
Yeah.
I realize for a lot of people, if you have MS, maybe you're sitting and you're being like, no, I couldn't do that, or like that's too much of a change because one of our basic human psychology thing is that like anytime we're thinking of changes, we always think that it'll lead to more pain because we've never done
Hmm.
it before. And so I think that's why it's really good just like listening to people's stories who are like you or were like you and did that and went through that, took that risk and got to the other side and were able to change it. So for those people who are, at home, maybe listening to this and they have MS and they want to get rid of it, but they're nervous or scared about maybe changing their diet or they're just scared, what would you say to them?
I would say just try it. Like you can always go back. Like that's the wonderful thing about choice is you can always make a new one. People they look at these diet changes and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I have to like turn my whole life upside down and I can never go back." Like no, it's not that definitive. Like you have total free will and you also can ease your way into it. I certainly did without realizing it. I think the number one thing is to take out the processed junk food. That's the number one thing. You have to take out the processed foods. You have to take out the stimulants like coffee, and you need to bring down the fat really low. Like I actually took out all overt fats, and that's scary for people too, but it doesn't need to be. You could even just do like a raw till four. You could do fruit for breakfast. If you can do that, do fruit for lunch. And then if you can do that, maybe just do potatoes for dinner without any oils, steam and have some steamed vegetables or something just to start you off. Or you could maybe go into fully raw and just try that. Oh my goodness, just try it. Like that's the thing is like just if you just give it a try, it's not going to harm you. Fruits and vegetables are not dangerous. Like it's going to be okay. And also I want people just to know that it's possible for your body to recover because the fruits and the vegetables don't heal you. Your body heals on its own. And if you give your body what it needs, it will do that for you. That's the thing is you don't have to try. You just get to enjoy fruit. You just get to enjoy the delicious fruits that you love in abundance. You don't have to restrict, you don't have to calorie count, just eat the foods that you're designed for and trust that your body knows what it's doing. I think that's number one for sure.
I really like that. That was really well put because we have this amazing avatar vessel vehicle,
Hmm.
and it's amazing how if we actually like step back and actually let it do its thing and give it the right environment and conditions, it's like holy moly, like it really responds really, really, really well. And even
Yeah.
just something as simple as like, the body, the fruit doesn't heal it, the body does the healing it. The fruit's just putting you in the right environment to do it. It's the same thing with, when you're building muscle. It's like no, protein actually doesn't build muscle, the body actually builds muscle. A lot
Hmm.
of people are going to be like, what, did he just say that protein doesn't build muscle? It's like, well, actually, yeah, it doesn't. This is like, if that was the case, then bodybuilders would not need to go to the gym. They would just sit in the kitchen and they would drink protein shakes and they'd get huge. It doesn't work that way,
Exactly.
right? And so that's really, really well put, that just kind of letting the body do its thing. So try it. What tips would you say would be helpful for someone who's like, okay, I'm going to give it a shot? What things would you be like, okay, make sure you just do this, and this to make transitioning to raw be a little bit successful?
Number one, keep a light heart. Be nice to yourself. Be like, this is going to be fun. Like think about it in terms of this is going to be fun, or like this is a good adventure, or like I'm the hero of my life and I'm doing this out of love for myself. I'm doing this because I love myself, not because I'm trying to punish myself. Like I am choosing to eat like I love myself. These kinds of thoughts are going to get you motivated and get you excited. And also to have the idea and the picture of your mind in your mind of what you're going to feel like as a healthy person. This is so important because if you have the dogged mindset of I am a healthy person and I'm going to act like one, that's going to cause you to become a healthy person and to act like one. So that's number one. Okay. Number two is get all the crap out of your kitchen if you can. If you don't live with family members who are eating a whole bunch of junk food and you have that ability, take it out and just bring in the stuff that you know is going to be good for you. Bring in more fruit, bring in all the vegetables that you like. Eat fruits and vegetables that you like. That's another thing. The next thing, make sure when you buy fruit, you buy in bulk and make sure you buy it so that because a lot of people live in the north or in places where it's not ripe when you pick it, like in Thailand. I'm so lucky right now. Make sure you're buying fruits in successive ripeness. So, buy fruits that are ripe that you can eat today, and then buy fruit that you know will be ripe in a few days. Oh God. But again, this sounds like a lot of rules. Watch YouTube videos. Watch like how to go raw. There's like a million YouTubers out there talking about that.
Yeah, for someone who's looking to start raw, we just mainly want to be sure that like I think you kind of put it very well, where it's like just go get some fruit
Yeah.
and just start with that. And don't be afraid to get like a lot. And just
Yes.
start with that. And then if you start your day with the fruit, you can still eat what you normally eat, and then just keep adding more fruit. So, you start with fruit
Hmm.
breakfast or even a fruit snack to start your day, and then just eat whatever else you normally eat, and then just try to swing that direction a little bit more in the fruit. The other thing too, again, so for people to be more successful is they can actually reach out and contact you and get some help with this transition. Is that correct?
Hmm.
Okay, so can you
Yes.
tell us a little bit more about your coaching and how you help people with MS transition and
Sure.
to fruit and get rid of their MS?
Yeah, well, of course, I don't make guarantees about health, because, yeah, I'm not, at a position to do that, of course, but I do just provide people with the information that has changed my life, and not just me. By the way, I want to make this clear. I'm not the only testimonial about being able to overcome MS with fruits and raw fruits and vegetables. There are multiple people. There's Rebecca. There's one of my friends I met at Woodstock. And I think there's another person as well. But so with MS specifically, who have overcome it completely. It's amazing. But this is how I help people. I meet people where they're at. We start just by looking at someone's diet and what they're doing now, what's working, what's not for them. And then we just start to bring in more of the good stuff. We start to focus on the fruit. We start to focus on the vegetables. We also look at mindset as well, because to me, this is king. If you don't have, if you're not getting your mind right about it, you're not going to be able to do it. You have to be able to shift your mind in new directions in order to commit to this new person that you're going to become, essentially. You're choosing to become a healthy person, which is aligned with your actions, of course. So that's number one. So the way that you could get into contact with me is, yeah, just on Instagram. It's just Adrianna banana underscore. And Adrianna is with two N's, by the way. um, yeah, so that's a way to contact me. You also could email me, which is just Adrianna with two N's dot KOLLAR at gmail.com. That's another way to contact me. And I also do a free 30-minute session if you just want to get to know me and see if this is the right fit for you and if you actually want to get into coaching. Or you could just head over to my YouTube channel, which is adrianna.banana. And on that YouTube channel, I have a lot of information about my journey and my story, as well as information about the raw diet and as well as misconceptions and stuff like that. And you can find lots of information there.
Awesome. Well, wherever this interview ends up, we'll make sure the links are there as well. So you can check those out as well. Because again, we haven't really, I kind of wanted to get into it, but we're wrapping this up. But like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that can potentially, I don't want to say go wrong when you're doing this, but it's not, this is a very different lifestyle. Eating a
Yes.
fruit-based or a raw lifestyle is very, very different
Mhm.
than cooked food. And so there's just a lot of problems, not problems, but just like a lot of hurdles or a lot of little things that you might not expect, whether it's like detox symptoms, like having
Yes.
to expand your stomach to be able to eat more food, like how much food you actually need, like how long does it take things to ripen, is like what's good
Yes.
food combining. So there's a lot of things. So I don't want to scare anybody who wants to try this and wants to try it on their own and just go
No.
ahead and try it. But what I'm saying is that it is a lot easier if you have someone who can be like, okay, like let's walk through this together. Let's get you set
Mhm.
up. And then once you kind of know what you're doing, you know, you can be on your own and you're on your way, right? So having a role model and someone who's done it and has lived it, it goes a long way. It's like,
Yeah.
going to the gym and being like, okay, look, I want to get better at this exercise. And be like, okay, well, no, I might not need a personal trainer forever or even for every session, but like, hey, let me get a personal trainer who can be like, okay, show me how to squat properly. Like, what am I doing wrong? Like, how can I fix this problem? Or like, show me how to bench properly. Like, I just did that. I had a friend, he was a personal trainer. I'm like, take me through the basic list. And he did it. And I'm like, that was a great investment. And so if you're on the fence about, I don't know if this is going to work or not or what, or like, I don't want to spend the money or I don't want to do this, but like, think of it as an investment in yourself and your future because, yeah, being in pain with MS, like, I'm fortunate I don't have MS and never probably hopefully will. But it sounds,
It's debilitating.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, Adriana, is there anything else you would like to say or finish with?
Oh, I just want everyone to out there who's dealing with something like MS or any chronic condition, if you're hearing this right now, I just want you to know that like the possibilities really are endless, and don't limit yourself to what the mainstream will tell you is true for you. If somebody tells you, oh, you're doomed, this is your life now, you don't have to accept that. That is also a choice. If you choose to accept that path, God bless you, do what you want, don't hurt anybody, but you're choosing that, and therefore that's the path you're creating for yourself. But you can choose a different path. And that is what I did. That is what so many people have done. And by choosing a different path, you are putting yourself in the direction of creating the reality that you desire. So, Keep a light heart about it. You don't have to go into it like I have to do it like this and like I have to be perfect. No. Be nice to yourself. If you slip up, you get back on the horse, right? It's okay if you make a mistake or if things don't go perfectly at the beginning. Yeah, because the journey is challenging, but this is the important part of it is you're learning from it. That's what happened for me. It wasn't just golden rainbows and sparkly unicorns the whole way here. It was really hard. It was a challenge. I cried a lot. Holy shit. I struggled so much through my MS symptoms and I was in so much fear and pain. So I get where you're at. But you have to just keep on telling yourself what you want to hear, essentially. But you have to take the actions that are in alignment with what you desire as well. Um, so go for it. Try it out.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to that's a great spot to end it. I'm sure there's a lot more we could talk about, but
Yes.
I want to thank you so much for your time.
Mm.
And for anyone who's listening to this or watching this, and if you want to reach out to Adrianna, the links are going to be somewhere down below. So feel free to reach out, and I hope you all have a great day. And thank you again so much for your time, Adrianna.
Thank you, Jason. It was my pleasure.